So a lot of these guys are incels, meaning like they don't want to go to a woman, they don't want to marry a woman, they don't want to. It's not even they don't want to, they do want to. Actually, sorry, but they feel like they can't get it due to women shunning them, and they're gonna say that because all women are men haters, that all women are whatever. And again, it comes from a position of wound, because he's been wounded. Maybe he's approached the woman and she said, look, you're not my type, or whatever. So you have a lot of now incels growing in America and even in the majority of Western worlds. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of The Bridge. Today we have a unique topic talking about women. Yes, men talking about women. We're going to discuss what it means to be a woman in Islam. We're going to discuss the different issues when it comes to feminism, how the house should be according to Islam, not just our opinion, but according to how the Quran talks about it, how the Prophet ﷺ, the companions, how they understood it. So let's get into it, Imam Shako. So the first question we have is, has feminism crept into Muslim minds? That's the first question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Sorry, Akhi.
I always mention it's not a Q&A, Akhi. Yeah, not a Q&A.
No problem.
We're having a discussion.
No problem.
Yeah, so,
has it?
Yeah, good question. Firstly, I think importantly, before we get into some of those topics, is to mention why are we maybe having this discussion today, and maybe something that you can maybe speak about. Why did we decide today to have this topic of discussion on women and so on?
Well, one, because we're going to invite more women onto our platform. Of course, 50% of the other half is women, so it's only right we get the women's perspective of how they live their life, how they understand Islam, the issues that they're going through. That's one of the reasons. And two, also from a male perspective, maybe our views on how women should be. And of course, according to Islam, not just our opinion, but according to Islam. So we're basically having it to introduce more women into our platform, basically.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. So I think also in terms of there are some sisters who've outreached us. They want to share some of their stories. They have, you could say sometimes different journeys and narratives coming towards Islam and what they've experienced in Islam as women compared to men. So we were reluctant. I think we had Sister Hawa, the mother of Tamim, her son Tamim got stabbed, rahimahullah. So she came on with a perspective, but that was more to do with what we were trying to do in terms of bridging people on road, supporting them. So it kind of connected with our narrative at that time. Since then, I think sisters have outreached us. There are sisters who are part of our community and they feel like, you know what, we've got a story, we've got a narrative, we've got a journey, which I think is important for, Muslim men and women to hear about and know from our perspective. So we thought, you know what, it's a good idea. We'll get some sisters on, but let us have a discussion, inshallah, amongst ourselves concerning, let's say, the role of women, feminism, the impact of feminism on Muslim women, and so on. So this is why we're coming to discuss this today. Yeah. So the first topic of discussion you mentioned, has feminism
crept into Islam? That's the first kind of topic.
Okay, good.
How do we understand feminism? First of all, just to outline the foundation. And then has that ideology crept into our households, our Muslim families? Is it bad? Is it good?
One thing would be not into Islam, but of course into Muslims. Yeah, so that's, Islam is there, which is something which is perfect from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Almighty, but of course into Muslim, minds, men, women, thinking, of course, and we are also part of society. So what happens in society, the discussions that take place in society, whether we like it or not, has an impact, especially if our, mana in Arabic, they call it like immunity. The immunity, and I'm referring to knowledge of Islam. If that is lacking, then everything that we're watching and seeing, we're being influenced by it. And that is going to have an impact.
You're being influenced.
100%. So yes, definitely, it's having an impact. And when you discuss with youngsters, boys and girls, especially, from our youth club and from the masjid and from some of our students here, you'll find it's having an impact. and a major impact, but in a negative way, because it's not from the angle of like the feminism kind of like arguments, ideology. It's not something which is positive. Yeah. But saying this though, one thing is crucial that we should know as a principle: where do our narratives come from? Where do our principles come from? Where do our values come from? Can a Muslim woman, do they say men are feminists as well sometimes?
Well, there's a lot of feminist men, so they're pro-feminist. Well, they would say they're on the side of women for many issues. And obviously, historically, and the only kind of side that I would be sympathetic to feminism is the reason maybe it started, which is that they was being disenfranchised. They couldn't vote. They couldn't own houses. You know, even in France, we know that they didn't even know if they had a soul. So you can kind of understand the narrative of why they wanted to fight for women's rights originally. But then as the years obviously have progressed since the 1960s, 70s, 80s, until we are where we are today, from feminism 1 to now feminism 3, whatever they call it, it's changed a lot. So maybe in the beginning they was asking for equal rights just to be able to live like men, to own a house, to, I don't know, drive a car or to vote. Now it's gone to we're the same as men. To some even saying, you know, women rule the world, and we have certain music talking about women rule the world. So I empathize the original, maybe how it started, but obviously where it is today.
It wasn't started by the poor people.
Yeah.
It was started by a middle class.
So speak of the suffragette movement.
Maybe mention that as well. Because they clove the whole thing as now where, you know, our original stance for equal rights for all women. But it never started like that, even back then. Do you get it?
Yeah. It was specific to the middle class kind of group.
Yeah.
And I'm sure...
And there was also against still probably, I think, black people at the time.
So black women couldn't vote still. So what do you mean? If you are there for women... And then
why are you separating between black women? What's the difference between all women?
Exactly. Again, an agenda behind it. But one point on that, Abdul Latif, would be in terms of while these might have been problems in the non-Muslim world and non-Muslim societies, soul, do they have a soul? You know, can you own a house? Can you own property? That wasn't an issue in the Muslim for Muslim women. Yeah, you could own a property, inheritance. You know, you would be sometimes left with properties from inheritance. You know, you can own a business. Of course, you have a soul. You're a human being like a man, and so on. So those issues weren't there in terms of our perspective. But the other point I wanted to make is when we are discussing any issue, the narrative, the values, the principles, the guidelines, the guidance is Islam. Yeah, and sometimes what's happening with Muslims now is we've got a secular view of Islam, which is Islam. Yeah, I can pray, I can fast, and maybe it might even be hijab. You know, you can wear hijab and be a feminist. Yeah, or you're praying, but you've got feminism kind of like the ideology inside your kind of like mind and heart and so on. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he said, "Look, I leave behind, ya taraktu fikum ma in tamassaktum bihima lan tadillu abada." I leave behind two things that if you stick to these two things, you will not go astray. It's in the Book of Allah and my Sunnah. In what regards? Every regard. It's not just the prayer or the fasting, but your economic views, your family views,
your ideologies.
Everything is going to be stemming from the Book of Allah Ta'ala and the guidance of the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu. That then becomes, you can't then be Muslim
and then feminist at the same time.
You understand? You're a Muslim woman, yeah, or you're a non-Muslim. You're a Muslim man, or you're non-Muslim, you know, and so on.
But they might argue that a lot of feminism traits are equal opportunities. But I'm just saying this is an argument that's put out, the equal opportunities. For example, an argument could be all we're asking for is for men and women to earn the same wages at work. Where would we say as a Muslim now that feminism is wrong for that?
Yeah, I mean, one angle would be Islam caters for many, many issues. Yeah, there's a solution already provided, whether it be the rights of women, the rights of men, the rights of children, the rights of a father or a mother or grandparents and so on. Why not take it from your own tradition? rather than from somewhere else. Because when you take it from somewhere else, it's going to come with something else. Yeah, something which is going to be problematic and negative.
Of course.
Yeah, but take it from where it's coming from, Allah Ta'ala. There will be no negativity in that, because it's Allah's guidance and you know and the Messenger's guidance.
I think an argument could be made that a lot of so-called feminists are very ignorant, in the most polite way, of Islam. Meaning they don't understand the rulings within Islam. Maybe they might not understand fiqh. Maybe they might not have read the whole Quran. Maybe they might have not studied many ahadith to understand what their way of life says. Remember I was telling you time ago, sometimes I might be reading many of these motivational books thinking, yeah, great ideas. But then as soon as I go back to the Quran, the same motivational advice they're giving is already in the Quran. It's already telling you, Allah is already telling you to wake up early in the morning. The Prophet ﷺ is already giving you certain advice. And the companions or whoever are already giving you all these advices 1,400 years ago. So had you just gone to the source of your own book, first and foremost, maybe if you don't find it there, then maybe look outside and research. But most people you would find don't even understand their own way of life. And then when you do give them an example or a solution to the problem that they are having, they say, oh, I didn't even know it was there. That's what I tend to find with a lot of so-called feminists, whether it's a man pushing feminism or it's a woman pushing feminism, you tend to see they don't really understand their deen.
Yeah, look, one important factor here is, I mean, now it's an age of social media. So people will be watching individuals. Yeah, and I'm not saying that everyone there is like negative, has no knowledge, but people will quote an opinion, yeah, or say an opinion, and when you say, look, where did you get this from? And they'll quote somebody from like social media.
Yeah.
Is that really ilm? Have you actually gone to the sources that Allah Ta'ala has given us, you know, revelation or traditional Islam, yeah, or of the early Muslims, the Sahaba, to be saying what you're saying, whether it be role of a man or a woman, and you find, no, I heard it from this person, I heard it on a podcast. Come on, is that ilm? Is that really knowledge? You know, you need to be going to the sources to make sure, you know, what you're saying is based upon our values and principles. And it's not happening. You're right. It's not happening. Yeah.
So it's easier to go to YouTube. It's easier to go to Instagram rather than an imam, a scholar, and actually do it the traditional way of seeking knowledge. The easier way now is to look at TikTok, to look at Instagram, and to find, and this is what isn't the hadith based on, that there will come a time where there will be a lot of knowledge, something like that anyway, a lot of knowledge, but like actually no fa'idah in the knowledge, if that makes sense. Like there will be a vast amount of information, but lack of knowledge. Am I right in that?
Yeah. And there's a hadith which says, look, knowledge will become sahl. Easy to obtain, but also not easy to put into practice or understood. And people will not appreciate it. So now look, everything is kind of like translated. But people are misunderstanding and people are not applying. Yeah, and look at the sins that people fall into. And you could say this generation, compare it to, let's say, grandparents' generation or parent generation. Maybe they just had the Quran in Arabic, not even a translation.
Yeah, very basic.
But you know what? They're not lying. They're not cheating. They're respecting their parents. You know, they're being good Muslims. They're praying. They're not looking into haram or watching haram or pornography. But nowadays, fine. You know, somebody's memorized texts or Quran and
they're doing a madness.
And doing a madness. But the other point I wanted to mention is, you know, maybe a question for you. Does it have to be? And I see this, and I find this problematic. Men, and this is not just from women, you know, women against men, but there's men anti-women.
There's men that are anti-women.
Anti-women, or women are like this, women are like this, women are like this. Is that really an Islamic paradigm? Yeah,
of course not. And I think, most of those, it might be controversial, but most of those men that are like that are usually people who have been let down, maybe shunned by women. Most of the time. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you? So you can't...
Reactionary.
Of course it's reactionary. You can't by nature hate women. Yeah. Your mum is a woman. You may have a sister, you may have an aunt. How can you by nature be against... They're the weaker sex. Why would I hate the weak... That by default as a man anyway, you should be inclined to look after the weaker sex. Whether it's a child, whether it's an old woman, an old man, or a disabled person. The nature of a real person or a real man is to look after that which is weaker than him. So as a man to be shunning women and saying, oh, women are like this and women are whatever, in a negative way, obviously there's a way to criticize without putting them down at the same time, is a person that's been wounded, most of the time anyway, by other women, whether it was his mum beat him when he was young or, I don't know, put him in a cupboard like Harry Potter, I don't know. But all I'm saying is you'd find that majority of men who are like that usually are coming from a place of a wound rather than a person that has a mum and a dad that's been grown up properly, that has grandparents, that's grown up right. That's why I think you will see those type of men. And they're a minority, but they're obviously loud, just like anything that's negative in life. You find that the majority of people that are loud are who people listen to, sadly enough, rather than a quiet person who's maybe respectable, nice, which is the majority of the world. The majority of the people in the world, men, are respectable, are looking after women.
And women.
No, of course, but you just asked about men, so of course women as well, but the point of men...
Adding to it.
No, we're not trying to differentiate, but I think that's what you would find.
Yeah.
That these men, and some of them are even, what do they call them nowadays in America? Incel. So a lot of these guys are incels, meaning like they don't want to go to a woman, they don't want to marry a woman, they don't want to. It's not even they don't want to; they do want to. Actually, sorry, but they feel like they can't get it due to women shunning them, and they're gonna say that because all women are men haters, that all women are whatever. And again, it comes from a position of wound. Yeah. Because he's been wounded. Maybe he's approached the woman and she said, look, you're not my type or whatever. So you have a lot of now incels growing in America and even in the majority of Western worlds. You have
that. To add to that, look, I'm not saying it's there today, but how it's supposed to be. So Allah in the Quran, I think Surah At-Tawbah says the male believers and the female believers, ba'duhum awliya'u ba'd. Yeah, so number one, you got mu'minun, you got mu'minat, male, female, believers. They're friends, they're protectors, allies of one another. Complement one another. Yeah, it shouldn't be, look, rich and poor, white and black, men and women. Always, like,
there's like battles,
confrontation and battles. No, look, everybody can be accommodated in our deen and you can contribute. And you got a place. Women have a place in Islam. Men have a place in Islam. Parents have a place. Kids have a place. Youngsters have a place. Everybody's got a place and a role. And that's what we need to be pushing towards.
Look, the skeptical side of me says, and maybe the more, what's the word for it when they call conspiracy theory? The conspiracy theory side of me says this is a push by higher people with higher agendas. Because if you go, like I said, if you go to the most natural places on earth, you see that the man and the woman are in harmony with each other. Of course, every household has issues, and no one's saying there's going to be peace when you go to this Amazon and you find that too. Of course, there's going to be issues, but you find that they're in harmony together. You're not going to see a woman all the way in the forest by herself, living by herself. I can do it all by myself. I've built this home. That doesn't happen. You will see that they work in unison. The man is out there hunting. The women are doing some form of...
Because you know why?
Go on.
What do you think? What's the reason for that?
What's the reason of that? They need each other, I would have said.
They need and fitrah.
It's natural.
Natural disposition, the way Allah has made men and women to be. So let's say he is in a jungle, Amazon, the man's going out to hunt. Yeah, he is providing with what he has naturally, what Allah's given him to go hunt and bring the food back.
And he's the stronger one to do that.
Yeah, and the wife's going to be there looking after the babies and then cooking that hunt for the family to
That might be misogynistic, Imam, nowadays.
Nah,
for you to say that's misogynistic, bro. What makes you think that a woman should stay at home and just cook for everyone, huh? I was listening to, might have been TV or radio, I don't know, but it was this lady that was like a football coach. And she was like, yeah, and even the other day, I was about to make tea for everyone, and I just realised that's what's the thing that they call men that rule the world? What they call us? And when you rule, like when men rule the world right now, patriarchal. That's a patriarchal thing. She said. Imagine that, Imam. She said for her to make tea, as she was making the tea, she realised, oh, she's doing something that's, patriarchy, that she should stop making tea.
Yeah.
Because why should she make tea for all the men when there's men all here. The men should make it.
But look, again, let's say non-Muslims have gone towards that direction. Number one, I don't know who sent it to me. I don't know if you sent me a picture of women in England.
I sent it to you.
Somebody sent me, it was like a video.
Nah, I'm not that guy, bro, but go on.
Yeah, it's like a short clip, akhi. And the way you would say it's hijab. You know, when they say, look, but this is
Women of the past?
Yeah, 19, like maybe 20s or so, 30, something like this.
Yeah, they used to wear long dresses.
Long dresses, scarves, and so on. So what's happened is, and maybe it's like, the agenda you're talking about, people have been taken away from their natural disposition. We call it fitrah, natural disposition. So things which are womanly, they're made to feel, look, you shouldn't doing it. A wife serves a husband, akhi. That's part a role. It's a responsibility. Of course, when the wife is serving, doesn't a husband time to time also look after and serve when there's a need? No, that happens. So each one complementing one another. But now, because the non-Muslim society is going towards that way, what's happening? A man doesn't want to come home and see what? Another man. You understand? Masculine. What's laughing?
I'm thinking like you're talking about actual man, but you're talking about the woman is a man. But
I'm talking about your masculine characteristics now.
I'm thinking, what's going on here, bro? We're not all gay, man. It's okay. But I get what you mean. Like the woman has got such masculine traits.
Yeah. So you know what? 2 leaders in the home.
It's true. That's why it's laughable, because it's so true.
Breakdown, akhi. It's a breakdown. It's a breakdown.
Yeah.
Same way.
Yeah.
Man's feminine. The woman doesn't want to see that.
Of course.
Be a man. Be a leader.
Again, sorry, but I was listening to the radio again today, because I'm always driving listening to the radio. And obviously right now there's all the flights and cancellation. So one guy's rang up and he's like, yeah, my wife is ringing up the airline right now and she's trying to sort it out. And the guy who's the presenter, he goes, so what do you do? He goes, well, I'm a stay-at-home dad. And I just thought, flipping heck, bruv. Do you get what I'm trying? This is the issue. How can you be a stay-at-home dad? How does that make sense? How do you even have the confidence to say I'm a stay-at-home dad?
And that's why, I know we've had these discussions before where, look, a lot of what women do and are doing and being attracted to certain ideologies like feminism due to the lack of a man being a man in the first place. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised, you might know, if you probably research behind feminism, it's probably men who started the movement and so on.
You know what, fun enough, it was. I was listening to Muhammad Hijab, shout out to him, and he was breaking it down like originally who the first writers were, etc., etc. And I'm sure he mentioned, I don't know the name of the man, but the woman that wrote the book, the original books of feminism, it was the man himself, her husband, who suggested to her to write these topics. And there was I think either middle class or upper class people. So this wasn't even a pop, because poor people are dealing with, I need my next meal. They're not thinking about buying a house because you ain't even got the money to buy a house.
Yeah.
So if you originally, like one of the brothers was saying, originally the people that started the feminism or feminists, whatever, are rich people, well-to-do people of high society already. Now they're trying to get into the upper people and trying to say, well, we want to buy houses just like you. We want to own cars just like, we want to vote just like you. They're not bothered about the black woman. They're not bothered about the Irish man that couldn't go into the pub back in the day. They're not bothered about any of that. They're bothered about the middle class woman can live just like the middle class man or the upper class man, originally anyway. But moving on, so we've started, obviously, has it crept into Islam or Muslim, sorry. Take us back now at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. How would we, if he was to look back as a movie, as if we was there, do we know how they lived then? Is there examples of how men and women interacted? Maybe you can give us some insight on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the unique things about the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, peace be upon him, compared to even other prophets and messengers, his lifestyle as a husband, as a father, as an imam, as a teacher, as a general, as a relative, as a nephew, everything is detailed. The way he dealt with companions, the way he dealt with female companions, male companions, and his Sahaba is detailed. So it gives you a clear outlook of how men are supposed to be, women are supposed to be. 2 principles in there, Abdul Latif. One is Surah Al Imran, Allah says, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنثَى. That's a principle now. The male and the female are not alike. Yeah, so Allah Ta'ala has created the two different, whether it's biologically, whether it's emotionally, whether it's physically, and so on. Yeah, but another principle where, in Surah Al-Ahzab, Allah speaks about, He says, إِنَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ والمؤمنات والقانتين والقانتات والصادقين والصادقات, until the end. The male Muslim and the female, the male believer and the female believer, the male and female who are obedient, the male and female who are truthful, the male and female who are they give charity, they have humility, they fast, they protect their private parts, they remember Allah Ta'ala, male and female all the way through.
It doesn't say just males or just females.
Yeah, until the end where Allah says Allah is prepared for both. Yeah, male and female, a great reward, and forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, and that's a concept of the time of the Sahaba. That you have a role, you have a role. You need to be a good Muslim, you need to be a good Muslim. You need to be righteous, you need to be right. You need to remember Allah, you remember Allah. You need to protect your private parts from haram, same for you. And that was, you could say, the general rule. And of course, you had women. I mean, we spoke about before, leadership. Can a Muslim woman inspire you towards goodness and righteousness? Of course. Hajar. Yeah, we follow Hajar, the mother of Ismail, Ibrahim alayhi salam, in Safa and Marwa, in our Hajj and Umrah rites. Yeah, how much knowledge we take from al-Mu'mineen Aisha, how we look into the life of Khadija as a role model,
as a businesswoman,
So it wasn't never
us against each other,
us against one another. You complement and you learn, and both can benefit. There are, you'll be surprised, scholars, narrators of hadith, of those who passed on Sahih al-Bukhari and collections of hadith, which were women who taught, great scholars who are men. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, I think one of his teachers, possibly more, women. Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, women. And they were like very senior in their scholarship and knowledge. So it was never an issue. You can't even say, look, scholarship is only for men. No.
There is no law that even says that.
100%. The
hadith, what does it say? It's farad upon all Muslims to seek knowledge.
Yeah. al-Mu'minin Aisha was a scholar from amongst the companions. And Sahaba would take from her and learn from her and take many ahadith that she kind of passed on.
Yeah. I think even from that, like the verse you just said with Surah Ahzab, talking about, the believing man, the believing woman to do this, do that. Even in that verse itself, from an objective point of view again, is that there is a kind of, what's the word for it now, like
complementing one another.
There's complementing, but there's a cross section that both of you have to do the same exact thing.
Yeah.
You see, now everything is polarized. One part will say to you that men can only do this and women can only do this. Yes, but according to Allah, there are many things that are neutral.
Yeah.
That both man and woman can do. Like you just said, the worshipping, the looking after your private parts, the modesty, the praying. All of these are for man and for woman. It doesn't just specific.
100%.
It's not specific for man, nor is it specific for women. But then obviously the more controversial things of today would be, the 50-50s. The man has to do 50-50, the woman has to do 50-50. So if we look back at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, would there be something close to 50-50? Would it be maybe 70-30 or whatever? How would we understand how he lived at the home with his wives? Because he was a busy man.
Yeah. I think, look, when we start putting labels like 50-50 or even 60-40, where's that paradigm coming from? Did you understand? That whole paradigm and shift is from un-Islamic values. That even the debate having that
50-50, all this.
Because sometimes it might even be, look, Ayub alayhi salam. Ayub alayhi salam reached a stage where, look, he's tested so much he can't do anything. His wife has to work. You understand? Yeah, well, I used to go out selling her hair sometimes, I think, just to kind of like, Allah tested him. Yeah, Allah tested him, with tests. So
if feminism was alive today, we'd be like, Ayub, mate, go on, get up, son.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes, let's say a husband has a disability.
Yeah.
He's had an accident. Fine. He was providing for the family, but now suddenly qadar Allah. Would Islam say, look, because he's got a disability, yeah, I mean, we're going to come to like marrying women with children and so on. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to leave him now. Look, he's not even providing. No, that's not Islam now. You've got a wrong value system. Yes, when he could, he was providing. Allah's afflicting with a calamity and a test now. Now, sister, okay, wife, your seeking pleasure of Allah is now helping the family, contributing and so on. So I think that 50-50, 60, it's wrong ideologies that we have crept into our discourse. Shouldn't be.
I agree. But like I said, do we have examples like this? There are narrations, is there stories, is there, how we can understand how the Prophet lived? Like, are there stories for us to understand, okay, the Prophet ﷺ used to come home and do this, and a woman used to do this? Like, just the narrative.
Many. I mean, look, ayah. I think you mentioned it before the podcast. Ar-rijalu qawwamuna 'ala nisa. What does that mean? What does Allah go on to say? Bima anfaqu, because of what they spend. Yeah, one of a wife's right is infaq. Nafaqa is a right. Yeah, that she has over a husband. That's kind of like laid down in the books of fiqh and so on. Even to the extent when there is like a divorce, the iddah period. The man, because he's still his wife, has a responsibility of providing through the iddah is like when there's a divorce, there's a waiting period until the divorce is fully, gone through 3 menstruation cycles or 3 months and so on. Until then, still your wife, legally, Islamically, you need to be providing. So, is there Sahaba? What will they do? They're working, they're traders, they're farmers. Ansar were farmers, Muhajirun were traders.
I think I heard one narration where Asma, she used to go out and carrying, was it logs or something like that? So she used to go out doing some form of work to help around with the house. Obviously, we know of the story of Fatima radiallahu anha. She'll come to the Prophet ﷺ and, her hands was blisters or whatever it was, and she asked, look, can we get a person to help around the house? And then
but she was doing it in the home.
Okay.
She was making bread in the home, and she was, kind of like
so it was hard in her home.
So it was in the home. Ali was outside. Ya Rasulullah, look, we need kind of like a servant or something. What did he say even? He said, look, I'll give you something better, which he says, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, 34 times, 33, 33, 34, and so on.
He guided them more to a spiritual.
Which again, lack of spirituality in our lives. Everything is materialistic. Solutions are materialistic. Nothing is iman based. That's another problem on the men-women discourse and agenda and so on.
I think that's what's lacking. Like I said, I think because even though obviously you're a learned person, a lot of us my age and younger, they don't have that core foundation to even understand some of this stuff we're even talking about. They don't know that there was an Aisha and how she lived, or there was a Khadija and how did she live, and there was a, and all the other sisters, Asma, or they don't even understand that narrative. So because you're raised in a country where from the age of 2, 3 you've been watching cartoons, these cartoons are made by who? It's another whole subject. They're made by people who are not even inclined towards understanding the purpose of life. These are atheist people, maybe even agnostic people that don't worship God. So because remember, art is a representation of the person doing the art. So who's that person? If we go like to, what's his name? The guy that went in prison lately.
Andrew Tate?
No. The guy in America, man, touching up lots of women and all that, man.
Epstein.
Now imagine how many movies he's made. Think about it logically now. Imagine how many movies he's made. Harvey Weinstein.
What was the other one? Jeffrey Epstein.
No, Epstein he's the one in America, and he's the one that had the whole island and touching up little kids or whatever.
Okay.
But the other guy, Harvey Weinstein. Yes, remember he's the director.
Yeah,
he's the producer. He's the one telling what to do and what not to do. And behind the scenes, you're a man who does certain things. So the people watching your movies are, in essence, going inside your brain and your thoughts.
Yeah.
And take that to cartoons now, take that to other little kiddie movies. Who are these people creating these movies? They're the people raising our kids a lot of the time.
100%.
Does that make sense? So by the time they get to 12s, 13s, 14s, you have a battle in your house.
True.
Because you've already been, molested might be a very bad word, but your brain has already been affected from a very young age.
But look at that now. So it's an important point. That also leads me to a discussion, which is like challenging the Muslim narrative, which is victimization. So remember, before the phone came about, what was the discussion amongst ulama? Is television haram? Imagine
For the phone.
before satellite, before internet, is television haram? And there'll be scholars saying television is haram. Yeah? And some will say that's the third parent. Parents are busy, child, look at the TV, man. That's your parent. You understand? Yeah? Now, where are we? And again, let's say a father's busy. Yeah? A mum's on the phone, she's busy. There's no time for the kids except to watch Barbie now. Barbie, you're talking about feminism. Barbie's
Barbie
there.
movie.
You understand? Muslim parents taking the kids to watch Barbie. Yeah, so you're not even challenging the narrative that's being given to you.
Yeah.
On top of that, there's the immunity because of knowledge of Islam to
It's not there.
see and say, wait, you know what, child, wait a minute. Educate. Let's say you're watching. Sometimes it's difficult to say no. Okay, so you're watching this cartoon. You know what? That's actually haram. That's shirk. That's disbelief. That's disrespecting the Creator, Allah, because you don't know yourself. So it's
You know why I'm laughing? It's because when we go, first of all, you in a movie doing that will be classed as a Grinch. First of all, you see how you just said that's haram. Someone will be like, why would I go out with this person? Because they've already made the person. Remember what I said to you about movies, what they do? They always make the most rational person look stupid. They make the rational person look like he's a party pooper. So as soon as you start saying, son, that's shirky though, son. Because he's been raised to look at you due to cartoons.
true.
Like the Homer Simpson, the dad is dopey.
Oh, yeah.
Do you understand? Homer Simpson, the dad is dopey. If you go to all these other cartoons, the dad is dopey or he's clownish. The mum is the smart woman. You know, Homer's wife, she's the smart woman, right? Homer's daughter, she's the smart woman.
Seriously, it's like that.
Yeah, but is the dopey one. He's always making trouble.
Boss the son.
The baby itself is smart in Homer Simpson. Imagine that. The baby itself that has a dumb in his mouth knows how to cross the road and everything.
Look at that conspiracy. You know what made me think?
Yeah.
The hadith, the messenger of Allah said, a time will come when the slave will give birth to the master. It's like baby is like the one in charge.
But the baby's on charge. The baby, there's a cartoon called Boss Baby.
Okay.
Like I can name you because I got kids now. I can see the narratives. But the point I was making with you is, look, you're a person that's rational, trying to teach, say maybe your kids or whatever. But when you're watching a movie or a cartoon, I don't know who I heard that because I hear a lot of things and I read a lot of things. But
Malcolm X said, isn't it? If
No,
you
but-
believe what people say,
if you don't stand for anything, you fall for anything.
the oppressor will make you feel like he is the victim and the oppressed is
look
the
like
is the oppressor.
Yeah.
But this
No, there's that
is-
point. But the point I was gonna make is more when we're watching things, you're being entertained.
Yeah.
So your brain isn't there to pick apart all the issues. You're just trying to be entertained. Do you get my point? So when people are watching things, they're not there picking apart all these issues. It's just going into your subconscious.
100%.
It's sitting there.
But is that correct?
You shouldn't be watching it.
Okay, let's say you are watching it. As a Muslim, you're always on guard because it's your deen. Shirk. Let's say, I'm sure there are cartoons which are promoting shirk. Yeah, that the kids are being affected with associating the partners with Allah. Yeah, you gotta be on your guard to say, look, that you can't have. That's impermissible. I just remember there's a cartoon. I was like, I never watched it, but they would hear the kids saying it. By the power of He-Force or something like this. Thinking, wait a minute,
What was it called? He-Man.
Was it He-Man? Yeah.
He-Man, yeah.
He-Man
She comes in like, son, turn that off. There you go. But look, again, you're going to look like a bad person in this country, man.
Yeah.
In this country, you're going to look like the party pooper.
MashaAllah.
This is it. But that's my point. So for me, it's even on that point with regards to, let's just say about shirk or whatever, I think as adults, maybe there might be the nuanced conversation to say maybe after a certain age of understanding, of being able to differentiate between right and wrong, cool, watch certain things. Because like I can watch a certain movie and I know I can differentiate, maybe. I'm just saying. But from a young age, if you live in the West, it's very problematic to say don't watch TV at this point in life.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
This is the problem, man.
Because what you don't want to also do is nothing is allowed. Everything is haram and everything is impermissible. Yeah, and also, but the key thing about the thing, what I'm trying to say is, you know, you can have fun as a Muslim. You know, we done a trip. How many youngsters we took? 25, 30 youngsters. It's a good day. Providing alternatives. And even this, watching cartoons and being online is not healthy for the mind, for the heart, for the soul, and for the body. Yeah. Where's the physical activity, the physical side? Yeah, because does it stimulate even your mind? Not really. So yeah, we gotta look
for solutions.
Yeah,
100%. I think there definitely needs to be solutions. These are some of the problems, and I think part of podcasting and the good thing with the internet, my personal opinion again, would be that there is a shift, because originally the TV is controlled by just a few people. Now with the advent of internet, alhamdulillah, like us and many other people, you're in control of certain narratives at least.
That's what you think, bro.
No, seriously. Unless there's a man behind you telling you what to say.
World Wide Web, brother, man.
No, but my point is, at least there's a level of defense.
Yeah. I mean, look at the news before Palestine. How much information would you get of Uyghur Muslims? We didn't know about Uyghur Muslims.
We wouldn't know about.
So alhamdulillah, through kind of like social media and the internet,
there's
another
some
side.
form
There's
of
another
benefit,
side. There's another side.
And what needs to be done is more and more people need to take that position, learn more, and be the opposite of the negative. Rather than complaining, be the opposite of that complainant. But we've probably gone slight off tangent. So the next kind of topic within that kind of scope is the question I was asked was, what does female empowerment look like Islamically? So again, that's part of this whole feminist push, which is women empowerment. Women can rule the world, etc., etc. But how does women empowerment look Islamically? So what would be an empowerment position, role, maybe from the Islamic perspective?
Watching too many cartoons, man. That's what you're doing, bro.
I got kids, man. And I'm acting like you, like that's bad.
That's your excuse, yeah?
That's my excuse.
See how the kids here are just watching, yeah?
You know what, funny enough, we was talking about the other day, I was at my brother's house, and we were saying about, you know, sometimes we put on cartoons, but it's not for the kids. It's for you. I'm there putting on Dragon Ball Z, trying to be like when I was 10 years old. They get him like, son, look, just watch this, man. It's for you, man. It's for me. So, but
I know you find exciting, yeah?
I'm telling you, I'm babysitting. I'm like, let's both of us watch Dragon Ball Z, son. I forgot about this topic long time ago, but you know, we all have a child in us.
Yeah.
But yes, so what would empowerment look like Islamically? Or does it even have to have an empowerment? That's another question.
I was going to say the same thing. Let's say a Muslim woman. So again, where are these narratives coming from? A Muslim woman that's at home. And she prays a salah. And she reads the book of Allah Ta'ala. She teaches her children salah. She teaches her children Quran. She looks after the home. She looks after her husband. She respects the husband. She goes to the masjid for salah. She goes for Jum'ah. Is she empowered? She's empowered. She's, that's empowerment. Does it have to be empowerment of what non-Muslims want or Western ideas are? Why? Why does it have to be with somebody else's narrative or ideology? Empowerment in our narrative, in our tradition, that's what we need to go back with. Okay, let's say she does want to run a business. Yes, fine. Are there boundaries? Yes. Will she wear hijab? She needs to. Will she have certain professional etiquettes in dealing with the opposite gender? Yes, she needs to. Did Sahabiyat have that? Yes, they did. So again, it can be, but it's going to be with our framework and boundaries. Would we really call it empowerment for men or women? You know, these are kind of like...
But even the term, look, to put the word empowerment must mean they was disempowered.
Yeah.
That's the narrative it's starting from. The narrative or the fundamental premise that is being brought here is that they're already disempowered. So they need to become empowered. That's the narrative. But our argument would be, you're not disempowered. You already have power from the Muslim perspective. Sometimes as viewers and us lot talking, we need to differentiate between the Muslim perspective, which is all the Muslim lands, which the non-Muslims over here will say they're oppressed. But fine, let them have that view. And the narrative that's been happening here.
I wouldn't agree with that though as well, because a lot of Muslim lands, they're not observing
The Muslim way.
Muslim way. And even these narratives are creeping in, if not already crept in, into most Muslim lands. Yeah, there was a movement in Egypt, emancipation of the Muslim woman, Tahrir al-Mar'ah, started in Egypt and spread through the Muslim world. The key thing there was remove hijab, number one. Yeah, remember?
When was this?
This is like just before Jamal Abdel Nasser, you're looking at 40s, 50s,
Okay.
empowerment. And sometimes you'll find secular people.
But where did that come from then? The narrative come from here is my point.
Some would say, look, I was watching this kind of like debate. She's like a Arab lady. She doesn't wear hijab. So she says, look, you know what? She's having a debate with a Muslim woman who wears hijab. She goes, look, I'm Muslim. I don't wear hijab. I should be wearing it. He said, the words you're using, because the other sister was using, said, look, it's part of our culture. She goes, don't say that. Don't say it's Arab culture, tradition. No, it's deen. You understand? So you'll find even in Muslim lands, akhi, sometimes, look, deen is gone. They want to go back to whatever it was before, Islam came. Yeah, but that's also happening there. This is the point. It's not
It's happening there, but my point would be that our fundamental historic background is not the same as the historic background of here.
back then, but look,
Yeah, that's my
right
point.
now.
That's my point. So when feminism started, there was no feminism in Muslim countries.
Yeah.
They didn't have to be because from the time of the Prophet ﷺ until say 1920s when there was a Khalifa, wherever you want to go back to that time,
Yeah.
the rulings are clear in the Quran. The rulings are clear in the Hadith. The woman can make money. The woman can go out if she needs to. The woman should wear this, or the man must go out. There was always clear guidelines. Obviously, in the Western world, we know that Bible can be read by certain people, or they have to go to only men, or there was certain narratives or historical baggages that we don't have. So what I'm saying, when we're talking as to the viewers, whoever's listening, is to differentiate the two. Yes, in today's age, of course, because you have internet, you have YouTube, you have all of these places, everyone in the world with a phone and the internet can see whatever narrative that's happening anywhere around the world. So an idea from here can be in Africa, can be in Timbuktu, wherever, and it will spread. But we're talking about prior to all of that, this baggage over here in the Western world was not the same baggages that they had in the African world and the Arab worlds. It's only in the last 100 years or whatever that narrative has also pushed over there, where women want to take off the hijab and talk about empowerment, feminism. They didn't understand feminism. They might not want to wear hijab, fine. There was people at the time of the Prophet that they probably didn't want to wear hijab. But that doesn't mean women and men are in battle against each other. That doesn't.
You're just seeing it as, look, I'm sinning. I need to be wearing.
Exactly.
It's part of my Islamic identity.
Whereas now they're proud of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Now they're like, you don't have to. Where in the Quran does it say you have to wear hijab? What?
Yeah.
But sister, do you know alif bat ta? Like, I don't want to get into that topic. So my point is, the narratives of the West is not the narratives of other countries. That's the first premise.
One thing, look, the biblical teachings of concerning Adam alayhi salam and Eve, Hawa, is what? When they transgressed and ate from the tree.
Them naked.
But who is the one?
Shaitan.
No, it's Eve leading Adam.
Oh, you meant like who led who?
Do you understand? So
in their context.
In their context. For us, it was both. Allah says both of them transgressed equally.
Yeah.
You know, so you've already got, like you said, was there a soul?
The woman was
and that
the
was
bad
like,
one.
you know, not too long ago that was being discussed. Are they even human beings? We never had this in our tradition, which came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yeah, that's this.
So back to the empowerment then. So for us, one, we don't even accept the premise of is there empowerment because we see it as you're already empowered. You don't need to look for empowerment if empowerment is already there.
Yeah. And what do you also mean by empowerment? Does empowerment mean, and that most likely is coming from an un-Islamic kind of value system. Empowerment means you don't need to be on deen. If you're a Muslim woman on hijab, is that really empowerment? If you're a Muslim woman who's memorizing Quran and you're a wife and looking after your husband and kids and a stay-home mum, you can't be empowered. That's what, are they trying to say this? If they're saying this, it's wrong. And look in our tradition, al-Mu'mineen Khadija, the wives of the Prophet, what do we call them? Our mothers. They're leaders. If you want to use, that's real empowerment. We take from them as examples and role models. Hajar, we take from Roman Sarah, the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam. We take, those women as our role models. As men, we're taking them as our role models because of their iman and piety. Maryam alayhi salam, Asiya, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the answer to that, like you just said, is that the premise is not even there. And things like praying, things like modesty, things like looking after the home, looking after the husband, raising the kids. For us, this would be, if you want to follow their logic, that would be empowerment to us. Just like for the man to go and make money, to have modesty, to pray, to look after the family, that would be empowerment. And the man who doesn't do that might be the disempowered one, the one who's selling drugs, the one who's smoking.
Aren't they asking for that now, Akhi?
And who's asking for that?
People now, even women,
asking for that type of man?
Not just lifestyle. The women who preferred career over having kids, now in their 50s, I wish I'm on my own now. I'm going to die on my own. What am I leaving behind? Who's there to care for me? Because I didn't want kids. Because you know what? Yeah, sexual, what do you call it? Revolution, the pill, the contraceptives. Look at that. What has it done?
Well, it leveled the playing field according to them, that they can act like man. Because prior to that, a man was the one, obviously, who can sleep with different women and not have the so-called repercussions.
Yeah.
Now a woman can sleep around with lots of men and not have the repercussions. But there are repercussions. And not right for men, in our tradition, and not right for women. And, haram, both ways. But look, now there are non-Muslim women saying, look, I wish I was a stay-at-home mom. I wish I prefer career rather than having a family. That narrative is coming. And even with this masculine, feminine kind of like discussion, there are non-Muslim women who are saying, look, we're different. And the man needs to be like masculine and provide, and I need to be more in the home and so on. So well, I think there's definitely a pushback. And I was, for this topic, I've done some kind of research. Maybe it would be good to find it after and put it up as well. But it was showing that a lot of the people today signing up for mental health and, help or whatever, that the majority of them are women. There's also a percentage of them that are men, of course, but the majority of them are women, mainly in at workplaces, mainly uni students. So we're talking 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever that age is, up to 30s, 40s, career women. You ain't seeing, and again, it just talks about working people, but you're not seeing a motherly woman coming there saying, I've got mental health issues. Of course, there are going to be, for those people going to say, but there are women that are at home. Yeah, but we're talking about how many? How many people in jobs? How many people in uni? How many people in these positions that the stress of work? Because look, what they're telling women today, that's the hard thing for them as well, is because you're telling them, go work. At the same time, though, you're also telling them, be a housewife. How are you doing both? And hence why a man shouldn't really be doing both. A man shouldn't be working outside and then coming home and also doing some 50-50 kind of work. It don't make sense. So, of course, if it doesn't make sense for the man, it ain't going to make sense for the woman. And the most balanced way, which has worked for millennials, many millions of people before us, was that a man goes outside and that a woman helps. That has always worked. Hence why we've got to where we are today. If it didn't, we wouldn't be here. We are a conclusion of it working. Does that make sense? So the fact that people are becoming crazy, the fact that more people are becoming lonely at old age, like you just said, when you become 70s, 80s, you ain't had no kids. Who's taking you to hospital? Your sister or your brother has also gone old. Their kids ain't even about looking after their parents. Why are they going to look after you? So the result of feminism, if you want to look at it from from an analytical kind of point of view, like how has it progressed? How has it, pushed for more, a better life? It hasn't really.
Yeah.
Because you've got more mental health issues. You're lonely at old age. Men don't want to be with you. What was the point of trying to become feministic if the result was loneliness, mental health, old age by yourself? It doesn't make sense.
100%. And that's why it's important to hear from those sisters that will come on.
Inshallah.
Yeah, their point of view, as I think a lot of them, or many, if not most, will be coming from non-Muslim backgrounds initially.
Yeah.
They've become Muslim, taken Shahada, become Muslims and so on. So how it was before, how it is now, what has Islam given them, and these kind of like discussions about, feminism we can have with them, inshallah, and see it, their take on
their
them.
point of view, where did they get it from?
Yeah.
Cool. We didn't finish on maybe the 50-50 fallacy. So the 50-50 fallacy, like you said, one is a non-Muslim kind of view anyway. But would there be room as Muslim couples? Because obviously when we say 50-50, it's talking about marriage now. It's not talking about anything else, right? So let's stick to marriage. Is there room for...
It doesn't have to be marriage.
What kind of thing outside of marriage?
No. Look. I'm talking about... let's say it's a mother.
Okay.
It's a mother with a son now.
Okay.
Did you understand?
Before you was going somewhere else, man.
No.
But they got to you, man. But the Matrix got to you, actually. Go on. So you're talking about obviously parents as well.
Yeah, it's a mother, it's a son. Khalas. Is the mother supposed to? The son's like a big man, 20 years old. Khalas, he needs to take that responsibility, look after the mother and so on. So that's important. But yeah, in a marriage,
marriage, and it would be good to actually go into that, because I remember as you're saying that, the hadith comes into mind with when the dad goes to the Prophet ﷺ and the son is complaining about the dad, but then obviously the dad is making a poem talking about how he raised him, how he done this, how he done that, and then when he got to the Prophet ﷺ, obviously you're gonna articulate it much better.
Tell me, man.
You know it better than me.
I don't know, because you got a habit of mentioning narration.
That's why I'm coming to you before you make it look like, I'm gonna see where you're getting this from. But there's the story of the man, the young man.
Sure, he does come up with some narrations, bro.
He complains about his dad.
Say, they have this akhrajahu. Yeah. Collected by Al-Bukhari. Akhrajahu Abdul Latif, man.
I'll have a big following, akhi. I will have a big following, bro.
But mention it, I don't know how I'm coming.
No, from the top of my mind, obviously I don't know all the details, but from the top of my mind is that the young man is complaining about his father.
Okay.
And he complains to the Prophet ﷺ that the father hasn't given him his rights.
You're talking about the boy, Umar ibn Khattab.
Yeah.
I think that might...
Is it Umar ibn Khattab or the Prophet ﷺ? Because he heard the man making a poem by the time he got there. Meaning like the revelation was given to him that this man's poem is saying this, and he said, I've heard your...
Akhrajahu Abdul Latif, man. Akhrajahu Abdul Latif.
You're saying it's Umar?
The one I know is Umar.
See, in the science of hadith, back in the day, you would have been a fabricator.
I'm going to bring it. No. You're not joking on me. I'm going to bring it and show you. I'm sure that narration happened. Anyway, and then the moral of the story, let's just say, is fabricated. The moral of that story was that the Prophet ﷺ saying to that man, to the young man, that everything you own belongs to this man. That was the moral of that story. This man is complaining about his father, saying, oh, this father hasn't given me my rights, blah, blah, blah. Then the Prophet ﷺ told this man, everything you own belongs to this man, because he raised you, he done this for you, he done that for you, he done this for you. There was no 50-50, dad. You understand me? So it can also be for father and sons, but from that perspective, how would we understand? So my point would be, is there room for that conversation? Forget 50-50 even.
Yeah.
Just even, but around that topic, okay, wife, I work 80% of the time. You work 30% of the time. Can Muslim man and woman come to the agreement? Does Islam allow for that?
Good. It reminds me of a narration. Athar Ibn Abbas, he said, look, I don't ask my wife for all of my rights. Because, just, again, marriage, that's a subject in itself. There's a breakdown in marital relationships, understanding of marriage.
100%.
And that's, again, the repercussions of that on youngsters and kids, it's another topic in itself. I think maybe with some of the sisters, we need to have that discussion, or maybe ourselves. But, so Ibn Abbas, what does he say? I don't ask my wife for my rights, all of them, because I know I'm not fulfilling all of her rights. What does it mean? It's give and take. Compromise. Not going to be, she's going to do everything that's required. Neither you. That's not relationships. And that's not practical. Same way between siblings, same way between parents, and it's give and take. Yes, do what you can, son, but I'm going to allow you certain things because I know it's difficult. Vice versa, mum, dad, try and do whatever you can do. You do your best. But of course, you're not going to be able to fulfill everything, so I'm going to allow you, and so on. That's got to be the basis of a relationship between husband and wife. So sometimes it might be, look, husband, it's 70-30 as an example. But sometimes, okay, the wife needs to do a bit more because, okay, it's the context of what we're living in. Rent is 1,500. Yeah. Okay, husband is working hard. He's doing a halal job, but you know what? He can only bring 1,000 for the rent. So if the wife is working part-time and she can put in a 500 to help, she's looking after the family. It's a big, Islam is also now, we're also looking at a bigger picture of things. To keep the family together rather than say, look, you're not fulfilling, I want a divorce and break down the relationship and the marriage, which will have another negative impact on the kids. Say, look, husband, you're trying. I know you're trying to be a man and you're doing your best. I want to help you in that regard.
Even how you come and approach that person.
100%.
Rather than putting that person down, knocking them, you say, look, I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Because the narratives you see, and it's all just to go viral, but it's to put the other one down, to make yourself look like you're the better person because you're the breadwinner or whatever. So the answer I'm hearing from you is that there is room
100%
for that.
100%.
Meaning it could be 50-50, but that depends on how your household is running, what's happening. But it shouldn't be like, it has to be like this.
Yeah. And sometimes, look, it will be a man doing things in the home to support the wife. Yeah, she is busy. She's gone away. She's in hospital. She's visiting family. Okay, you know what? She's visiting her aunt that's sick.
Yeah.
Or mum that's sick.
You ain't gonna let the house get so
Okay,
dirty.
you got the kids with you now. Okay, you're gonna cook, clean, wash, put the washing up, keep the home clean. Akhi, that's given. That's love and relationship, and we get that from the Prophet also. That's in our narratives. The Messenger would help in the home, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he is masculine. He is the man, the ultimate man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if he can do this, what is that kind of like too much for you as a man to do that in the home? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's
And that wouldn't be feminine. That would still be a man. Yeah.
I think in that, obviously we spoke about that before, but there will be obviously people, some, not all, that will transgress that though.
Women or men?
Both.
Okay.
Both. A man might transgress the staying out all day. You know, we know this. There's many men, Muslim, if we're talking about Muslim, but there's non-Muslim men as well. But they might be in a pub all day, or if he's the Muslim man, he might be in a cafe all day drinking tea, and he thinks, I don't have to be at home. So now the wife is at home all day. She's cooking. If she's a good woman, she's doing all her goodly, homely stuff. Coming home to a man comes home at 10 o'clock at night. Everyone's gone to sleep. He just thinks the house is just to sleep and come out. Vice versa. If he's the woman, she might think going out to friends regularly and then the man babysits. It's problematic. You understand me? So there are transgressors on both sides in some homes that's causing this kind of division and the frustration for people to get into divorces. Because both sides are not thinking of the other. They're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about their feelings. They're thinking about their rights. Rather than, what does my husband want of me? What does my wife want of me? How can I best serve my home today? How can I best serve my kids? Yes, I might want to go play football 5 times a week. But maybe that hour I could be spending with my son, going over his Quran, going over his books, playing football with him. I think
100%.
that conversation needs to probably be had more.
Yeah. And I think, look, the key thing in that is lack of iman. Yeah. Because remember, if you know there's
You say iman for some people.
faith and belief and spirituality, you know, for you to know that there's a role and responsibility you have and you'll be accountable for. Look at the hadith. كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Yeah, all of you are like leaders and you will have a sense of accountability for those that are under you. A man for his family, a woman for the household. The person listed it and so on. Now saying this, the word mas'ul comes from the word su'al. You're going to be questioned about this. So if he has a wife not fulfilling your rights towards a husband, what did the Messenger of Allah say? He said, your husband is your Jannah, your husband is your Nar. When a woman complains about a husband. One hadith, he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, this might be a problem for us. This is our hadith, our narrative. The Prophet said, if Allah was to allow, and it's not allowed, but if Allah was to allow prostration to other than Allah, it would have been
to the man,
a wife to the husband, but it's not allowed. Showing the status, emphasize, look, the status of a husband or you know, of a man in the home and so on.
But let me push on that one, because again, I know there will be some women that will probably jump up and down. And this man, what kind of characteristics would he possess for that to even happen?
100%, akhi. And that's where Islam is, you could say, you can't just take one and leave all other aspects. You know, don't want to use this term, but let's say the man is a bum. Is he referring to him?
No.
Not providing for the family, not there for the kids. How many fathers? Yeah, you know, I've been indirectly addressing this topic on Jum'ahs. how many families have come, sons and daughters from our own community. Dad's not around at all. Some dads is completely gone, haven't
Married.
seen. Yeah.
Married.
They're still married, but he's gone, to a Muslim country, haven't seen him back, or he's here, but we never see him, never provides, never does anything. It's there. Is it referring to him? No. It's like a man who is a man, a Muslim man, who's doing his best and striving. Like you said, the example that you gave when with that man and the son and the messenger of Allah.
You said it's fabricated, bro. You can't use that, man. You're using fabrication now. You like the moral, though.
I like the moral. Yeah, I like the moral. I think what you mentioned there, that was okay. We should let you finish, Akhi. Yeah. That's moderated by Abdul Latif, Akhi.
Go on, what you saying?
Yeah, no, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, and I think on that point, the man being a provider, the man being a protector, the man being, caring, the man being overlooking, the man being soft, hard, all of that. Because the man can't just be one-sided. You can't be soft, the woman walks all over you. You can't be too harsh that she runs away from you. There's that fine balance that a lot of men of today don't have. And that leads on to what you were saying about the divorce rates. If you're divorced and the man only sees the kid, if he's a good man, that is, he only sees the kid twice a week.
Yeah.
You ain't going to raise that. So the most beneficial way, and hence why I'm sure, and again, is a hadith or Quran, you tell me, and that the worst or the thing that's hated most by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is divorce. Meaning what comes from divorce is a lot of things that you might not even see straight away. It's going to be 10 years time, 20 years time.
100%.
Because that same son or daughter doesn't know how it's like to be in a mum and dad relationship. Because he hasn't seen kissing, he hasn't seen hugging, he hasn't seen debates happen between the two and how to solve that problem.
Even that.
So because once you haven't seen that, you're going to go, I think there was another guy, again, Abdul Latif's Fabrications, but this is more Instagram. And there was a guy saying basically a lot of people in prison that are men, majority of them are raised by women.
Wasn't Imam Shadid saying that?
Did he say that as well?
Imam Shadid was saying that.
Maybe. And the angle he was coming from is women, Allah has created this in there as well. We're not trying to even put it down, are much more emotional. Now add emotions to strength and ferocity. This is a man now. Woman, she can't do much with her anger or whatever she has. It's a slap or whatever, you can control it. A man that's angry, emotional, lack of leadership, no wonder why you're emotionally triggered to run to a gun, to run to a knife, because you don't know how to balance yourself. You don't know how to overlook. You haven't been taught how to control yourself, or you haven't been in a situation where your dad headlocks you from young and you can get out of it and calm down and walk away. You haven't had that. You've never been tested.
Yeah.
Because you've been raised naturally, which is, it's not a mum's fault maybe, but you've been raised by a woman. You've seen her get angry. You've seen her get angry over the smallest things. You've seen her have a tantrum about the smallest things, and the next minute she's happy. You've got that characteristic.
That's a good point.
And so easily when you're on the roads now, because you've chosen the roads, there's no dad to guide you. You think you're the man of the house. You think the characteristics of your mum is what you should have on the roads. Am I making sense? It might sound harsh.
Look, another point you mentioned, which you're not mentioning it now, but I think you mentioned it off the podcast a while back. And it's the same, but it's similar. Yeah, whereas a lot of the men that might be inside are because of the emotional influences of a woman. She's got into something, but now he's got to come
and solve the problem.
And solve it, and ends up either killing
100%,
or stabbing
100%,
and ends up in prison.
100%.
Same scenario.
And that same woman gets remarried 2 weeks later or whatever.
Same.
Whether she gets remarried or she gets a new boyfriend. But yeah, a lot of men that are in prison are there for domestics.
Yeah.
And whether that's between him and his wife or his girlfriend, whatever, or his woman has been hit on by another man, so he has to defend her. But that's because maybe she was also flirting. I'm not trying to say it's all on her, but you have to look, what was the scenario? Where was you both at? So yeah, a lot of it does, and I said it's a nuanced conversation. This isn't a conversation you can just have in 1 hour.
No. And that's why, look, it might seem like a cliche, but Islam is a solution. But understanding and putting it into practice, a lot of those, look, even, we discussed it like it's not a joke, though, it's a serious thing. But let's say she is a divorcee. Yeah? A man should come in, akhi.
I'm married.
And it's polygyny. A man should be there And, look after the kids like your own kids. With the harshness and softness. Because with your own kids, how you say, look, don't do that. That's bad for you. Same way, because sometimes they need that. It's a form of discipline. But that also, because, you mentioned it was the...
I mentioned polygyny. I didn't mention
No,
polygyny.
polygyny. You said it was about... Because that was, I think, you discussed it with me. Asma bint Umais. Yeah, a woman being divorced.
Oh yes, she married 3 times.
She was married before Islam. Then she divorced from a non-Muslim husband. She married Ja'far ibn Abu Talib, the Prophet's cousin. And then she had 3 kids from Ja'far. Yeah, and then Ja'far died in the Battle of Mu'tah. Then she married Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Yeah, and she had a son she named him Muhammad. Yeah, she had a son, Muhammad, I think, from Ja'far as well. Then Abu Bakr Siddiq died.
Same as Ali.
Ali married her. Yeah, and she had, I think, 2 or 3 sons from Ali. They say Ali looks after Muhammad like his own son. Divorce is not,
it's not a stigma. It shouldn't be.
It's not a stigma. The Prophet ﷺ, you understand? Again, it's all different narratives coming into our Muslim kind of like thinking now. Yeah.
That story should give a lot of people hope. And this is the sad thing, is that some people will look at that story and for some weird reason find something negative about it. Rather than seeing it as, look, this is a woman married 4 times. Not because she wants to get divorced and she's running away from issues. No, the one man's passed away. One man, whatever. I think all of them kind of passed away, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like divorce of
no.
Just divorce. It was more she was a widow.
The first one they said, sometimes they said, look, either he might have died as well. The
first marriage.
Yeah.
And the fact that each man, and that's another topic I like to get onto, is that the fact that each man that married after was all friends. They knew of each other. There was companions.
Yeah.
The narrative we have today with a lot of, I wouldn't say Muslims, but maybe it's creeped into Islam as well, but definitely from the road days and where I've come from and that kind of historical background, is that as if you own the woman. Once you've gone with that woman, no one else can touch that woman. You're not with her, by the way.
Yeah.
But you own that woman. Your friend can't marry that woman. Now think about it logically. Would it be smarter for someone, you know their characteristics, you know where they live, you know their parents, you've lived each other from young, to be with that woman that you was just with, or some stranger you've never met? Logically thinking.
True. But the only thing I would add to that is, look, this is, number 1, her caliber and Iman, Sahabiya. Number 2, you're looking at Ja'far. You're looking at Abu Bakr. You're looking at Ali. Yeah? Because sometimes on the flip side is, well, you know what, he ain't going to look after because I got kids.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't trust this guy around my kids. He's not going to be a good role model for my kids. So that's another, you could say, scenario, the times we're living in. And there's been cases where, look, yes, it's been polygyny. Yeah, and a guy has come and he's oppressed the kids and oppressed, you understand? But he might have a beard and he might have a thawb and he might pray in the masjid. But what does it mean? Where's the actions of your deed? So all of that, I think that's another discussion in itself.
Yeah. Well, I think that would come down to just community.
Yeah.
Knowing each other, being open enough to say a man's characteristics and pull him out on it, because there is a lot of, you know what a man does, but you might not say nothing. Like you might know a woman beater, and everyone knows he's a woman beater.
Yeah.
But no one wants to say he's a woman beater. And then you let him get married to a woman that you might know is a good sister, but because you don't want to tell her dad or whatever he's a woman beater, she now gets married to that guy. Now she has a example of what a bad marriage is. But had you either stuck it on that guy first and foremost and say, I don't want to hear that story, or you gone to the dad and said, look, this guy ain't a good guy, that kind of community, when you it isn't there.
It's not there.
And so any man nowadays is marrying all these sisters, and of course sisters have to be accountable.
Yeah,
you're there just going into any issue without.
Remember, they go out the community as well.
That's my point.
It might be in the community, and if they ask you, but sometimes they know what it might be said in the community. So let me find a sister that is far away, Birmingham, Manchester, and do it there. And it's crazy. It's crazy. And again, the ill effects of it on the next generation. Musiba, calamity.
Those guys, you might have to just tag them. Put a tag on their leg.
Good idea, man.
And just see wherever they go. But anyway, moving on to our last couple of points. Is Muslim women on social media a problem? Oof. That might be another fireworks. Muslim women on social media. Maybe that needs context though.
It needs context.
Context for me would be,
Because I would say it's Muslim man a problem on social media.
so both ways.
Yeah, do you understand? It's about
So it's the context.
the context. It's how you are out there, what you're doing there, what input you're giving, how you're responding, how you're looking, what boundaries do you have. Yeah, a brother, Samin, showing his chest, reciting Quran, women seeing. What's Quran got to do with that, bro? You understand? What's gym got to do with? And who's watching?
Showing your chest.
You know, who's watching you? Oh, you understand? That to me is a, what's the word?
Degeneracy, maybe.
Degeneration. This is not higher. This is not what we want to give to non-Muslims. Non-Muslims are coming to Islam because they see our values, higher values. Sense of modesty for men, sense of modesty for women. So both ways, yeah.
So for me, it would be, I agree with you on that point, and it would be, if we're mainly talking about women, so there could be a time we talk about men, but it might be sisters. Let's talk about the positive ones. They're giving da'wah.
Yeah.
But then you're giving da'wah, and similar to a man's version, but your modesty is out there. Meaning, might be certain kind of clothes you're wearing. Meaning, when you're talking about makeup, galore. Do you get what I mean? So you might be talking about Islam, Quran, good. And no one's going to even put that to the side. But at the same time, the men looking at you are enticed by you. Why? Because of what you're showing out there. So there isn't that level of screening. Meaning at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, Aisha, they will screen themselves.
Yeah.
They're talking to a man, there'll be a particular type of screen. Whether you wear a niqab, whether you do voiceovers and you just show what the points that you want to show. These are angles. Now, if you're not obviously going to put on makeup, if you're not going to be out there with your clothes like that, fine. Maybe you should then give it publicly or whatever. What's your views on that then? Like, should a woman just be naturally on there with her face, makeup? Or if she's on there, should there be some kind of guidelines of how you look at these? Because men by default, we don't want to run away from hard issues as well. Men by default are attracted by what they see. That's just a natural, you can't tell us be blind. So they get, now that doesn't mean a man goes into your DMs and messages you. He hasn't got the right for that. Of course he hasn't.
100%.
But when we're talking about, hunna libasun wa antum libasun lahun, that you're recovering for him and he's recovering for you, then you should be thinking, when I'm putting up this video, what's gonna come back to me? What's my karma if you want to look at it from a different background? Who are the men that's gonna approach me on this? How am I gonna entice, or damage men? Or you have to think about the other side, is my point. And maybe there isn't that kind of angle. We're just putting things out there and not thinking about the repercussions.
Yeah. I mean, look, one thing which I just mentioned initially, similar rules. Not completely the same, because men and women are different, but similar rules and boundaries should be there for men and women. You talk about messaging, DM. Well, a man shouldn't accommodate that either from a woman. Or have let's say if he's married, have his wife kind of like overseeing it. Yeah, in case a wife is kind of like a woman is, messaging him and so on, and vice versa. So boundaries are very, very important.
What about if they're not married?
Okay, I mean,
and there's messages, because people message people.
Fine. A discussion, let's say, should be how. It's one of the brothers I spoke to recently, and I said, look, you know what? Take it a bit easy. Don't be, spend time with the family. Alhamdulillah, is giving dawah and stuff. And I said, look, Allah, it's Allah's religion. Let's not think that we are the ones that are going to take this forward. Allah will take it forward because his way of his religion. Yeah. So not to say to ourselves, look, the solution just lies on me. Yeah. So the question I'm trying to say is, look, is there really a need sometimes to be out there? Even for a man. Does every issue that you're discussing should be discussed by you? Sometimes you type in a scholar of Islam on YouTube and you see, 1,000 views. Did you understand?
A proper scholar.
Proper scholar, recognize it. Okay, 1,000 people only watched, subhanAllah, this Sheikh, rahimahullah, passed away. And then somebody else is like, 500,000, 20,000, million. Say, look, surely they've got solutions more than us. So do we really need to be out there? And a lot, whether it's men or women, egos, they come in, nafs, what's nafs, like your inner self, those still, ego, yeah. So that's one thing. But again, your point. So that probably needs a scholarly discussion. Sahabiyat, yeah, the full kind of like curtain and veil was kind of like an obligation. Not Sahabiyat, Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. Does that apply to all women? That's a discussion. Can a Muslim woman be wearing her hijab, talking about Shari'i hijab, which is not just a scarf, it's a whole attire, wearing it and be outside in public? Why would Allah Ta'ala legislate that if she's just supposed to stay in a home? So they've got, let's say, some sort of role outside. Does that now, let's say, apply on social media? If she's wearing proper hijab, she's talking straightforward, she is giving, let's say, advice which really is from a woman's perspective, especially to women. And remember, she might be in another part of the world, but sister needs to benefit from UK, but she's in, let's say, I don't know, Egypt or America or something. There could be a part they play, but the key thing is boundaries. And another key thing from the men women side of the Latif is, look, it's here, isn't it? You could be watching a sister, but you're not watching. Yeah, Ghaddul Basar, you're not looking. Yeah, or you're just listening, to the podcast. And
Yeah, because you might want to learn how the other side thinks.
100%.
You might want to know what marriage is like for other women or whatever, so you can, I don't know, implement it in your own home.
Look, sister came today. She's not a lady came today. She's not a new Muslim. She goes, look, I need to, I'm very close, but I want to sit with Muslim women to kind of like hear from them what it means to be a Muslim woman. Yeah, so sometimes, look, they want to hear from a Muslim woman's perspective rather than a man's perspective.
The horse's mouth, as they say.
Yeah, so yeah, but inshallah, I think that, it needs a discussion in itself, inshallah.
I think we've covered a lot of topics and there's much more to cover, and hence why we're going to be bringing on more sisters to, allow them to have their narrative. We can ask them, we can question them, how do they feel about certain things, and hopefully the audience that's watching, men, female, can get a rounded understanding of how Islam was and how Islam should be today. And so we'll leave it at that. وجزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.